formal, and after that more informal. It represents a great occasion, of course, to find out more or to inform you more about what Romania is planning to do for the upcoming presidency. So first of all, I'd like to say that Romania is well prepared for this presidency. So we are on schedule with everything. So we are going to host around 300 meetings in Romania. We are going to have the summit in Sibiu. The ministerial meetings are going to take place in Bucharest, but we are going to have an event in each of the counties of Romania, because we wanted to show that every European citizen, and especially every Romanian citizen, is part of this presidency, and the European Union is present and available for people wherever they are. Actually, by doing so, basically, we are touching upon one of the key elements of our presidency, which is trying to recenter European policies around citizens, building those policies that, of course, are concrete, that people can relate to, that people can understand, policies for the citizens, policies that respond to the request of European citizens. And if we look at the polls, European citizens are quite precise in their demands with regards to the European Union, doing more on issues like security, issues like education, issues like healthcare. Some of those topics are not of European competence, but nevertheless are requested by the European citizens. So therefore, member states can play a role in generating common proposals. Like, for instance, it was the case of Erasmus. Erasmus is the most popular program of the European Union, and it's the result of a consensus between member states that gave the role to the Commission to manage afterward. So European citizens, it's at the core of our presidency, and of course with a message that is also part of our slogan, which is cohesion as a common European value. Through cohesion, we understand the unity of the European member states or the European family, us working together, respecting each other. This is also quite an important element. So therefore, we mean by that, of course, avoiding double standards and making every European citizen feel welcome and a full part of the European construction. Through cohesion, we also understand economic, social, and territorial convergence. This aspect of cohesion is mentioned in the treaties, and of course needs reflection, and needs a debate, and needs a discussion, and needs, of course, to be translated into quite concrete policies. So we have a list of topics of interest, priorities that we presented recently in the Parliament. We had in the European Affairs committees and the committee in charge of the presidency the full support of the members of the Parliament. All the political parties supported our list of priorities, and I'm going to speak about that. Because in the last 12 months, since I became a minister, we allocated a lot of energy and resources to consult people and to involve everyone in this process. So we had several stages of consultations of course, of the public institutions, but also our representatives in the Parliament, in the European Parliament, in the Committee of the Region, in the European Social Economic Committee. So we try to involve all the stakeholders in this process, organizing a forum of public consultation, a very active forum, organized in working groups, so people actually work in building our list of priorities. And we have about 500 stakeholders, NGOs, trade unions, employers associations, attending the meetings, participating actively in designing the list of priorities. And like you can see, of course, in the papers in front of you that we try to give to all of you, you'll see that we have 4 big pillars. The first pillar is more the economic and social pillar, is Europe of convergence with growth. Romania had the biggest economic growth of the European Union last year, almost 7%, the 3rd biggest economic growth in the world. So we are quite proud of that, and I think we think that maybe we can contribute more in generating a growth policy at European level. We are going to speak about cohesion, and here I just refer to that. But we are also going to speak about competitivity of the European Union and EU member states in the world, but also connectivity. Connectivity, we mean by that developing the infrastructure at European level, but also developing digital infrastructure. Romania had the 3rd fastest internet in the world, and and this, the second biggest number of European citizens connected to broadband. So this is quite an important element for us. The digital sector contributes with 6% to our GDP, and every moment, every year, the contribution increases of the digital sector to our GDP, while at the same time seeing the GDP growing. So it's important for us to speak about connectivity between north-south and east-west. In order to create more synergies at European level. But also we have quite an interesting element that we want to touch upon, which is macro regions. We have all over Europe regional forms of cooperation, which are called macro regions, recognized by the European Union. All member states are part of at least one. Romania is part of the Danube strategy, European strategy, and we would like for the European Commission in the future to focus more on those regions and support them more, because for the time being the Commission has this rule of not financing them. Maybe in the future we can find possibility of using these regional cooperation opportunities. For instance, the Danube, we have several member states and non-member states part of this strategy, and it's important, of course, to use the Danube as a means of cooperation and enforcing our relations in the region, as other forms exist in the west, the Alps region or the Baltic region. So we have different forms of cooperation across Europe. Second pillar is Europe of security. When we first launched this topic, of course, it appeared from the important background that our country has in terms of security. I don't know how many of you are aware of this fact. Romania contributes with 2% of its GDP to the defense policy, and in total around 6% of our GDP goes to security and defense matters and border protection and citizen security and law enforcement. Of course, I mean by that also the contribution of local authorities. Because security for us is key, and Romania is well recognized to being not only a secure country but also a provider of security in the region. Our borders, for instance, the border protection has the latest type of technology. We are protecting the external borders of the European Union, more than 2,000 kilometers that are protected by Romania. So this is something quite important for us. While unfortunately not being in Schengen, and for sure is not due to the security issue or the border protection. And maybe this is something that is still open for reflection, that hopefully will be resolved soon, because Romania can actually contribute more, and we are contributing actively to the reform of the Schengen area that hopefully in June will be finalized. So we are speaking there about also digital security. One of the offices of NATO in fighting cyber threats is here in Romania, due to the high expertise that we have in this field. So of course we even have proposals, like for the first pillar with the macro regions. Here we have a proposal which is basically creating, for instance, a network of internal affairs attachés active in member states. Romania has several attachés in different member states. I don't know, Germany has some elsewhere, Slovenia has some elsewhere in other countries. Generally, where they have communities or where they are working together in fighting European criminality. So it's important for them to work together. We don't have a network yet. We don't have an interaction between those attachés. So we believe that it's important to use that know-how, and that those bilateral exchanges or regional exchanges of exchanges in terms of internal affairs to reinforce, why not, the security of the European Union. When we first presented the issue of security, we thought it was mainly, an issue appearing from public stakeholders. But on the 9th of May, we launched also the citizens' consultation, the format of consultation initiated by President Macron, that Romania joined actively since the beginning. And we consulted people, and we consulted also a lot of young people. And we found out, it was a little bit of a surprise for us, that Romanian citizens, and especially young people, consider security one of their main issue of concern and one of the biggest risks for the European Union, if not the biggest one. Even though Romania is not threatened by security problems or by terrorism, Romanian citizens understand this is an issue at European level. So we are quite happy that what was came up out of our consultation is also something that is seen when we discuss with citizens in general. The third pillar is Europe as a global actor, keeping up to our promises, but being active in the neighborhood. The Western Balkans, we are still going to proactively engage with the Western Balkan countries, pursuing their desire or supporting their desire to get in the European Union, while speaking at the same time about Eastern Partnership. We'll celebrate next year the 10th anniversary of the Eastern Partnership. So I mean by that Ukraine, Georgia, Republic of Moldova. For us, Republic of Moldova is quite important. We believe that we have to be present in those countries and being quite active. I've been in the Republic of Moldova a few weeks ago, and we hope to involve them as much as possible in different activities in the preparation, but also during the presidency. The fourth pillar is something quite interesting, I believe, for Europeans as a whole. We are going to speak about Europe as and European common values. Basically, we are going to relaunch a concept that is mentioned in the treaty, which is called human dignity. It's mentioned there since the beginning, but we have forgotten somehow about it. So human dignity means, of course, taking care of the citizens, making sure that we do not leave anyone behind, and this is quite an important element, of course, and this means economic and social policies. Of course, we are going to speak there about opportunities, equal chances, equal opportunities, gender rights. Our Prime Minister is very keen in speaking about this fact, and of course, we are supportive as a country for that. Fighting against discrimination, fighting against anti-Semitism, fighting against hate speech. So those issues are going to also be on the agenda, but the priority mainly is to just have a discussion between member states, and this is, I think, something that is mostly needed at European level. So, of course, these are the ideas. Romania has the opportunity, but also the responsibility to have the presidency at a key moment. So we are going to have the presidency before the European elections. So during our presidency, we'll have the creation of the new Commission, the new President of the Commission, new President of the Council. We are going to have Brexit during our presidency. We are going to have the debates about the next European budget, the next multi-annual financial framework. Of course, we do not know yet to which extent we'll have to deal with that. It depends on the Council's decision in June, but of course, the Commission came up with this proposal to finalize negotiations before the end of the mandate. This is a proposal on the table. We have the summit in Sibiu, which is going to deal with the future of Europe. Basically, we'll have a conclusion of the debates about the future of Europe, while in the Council in June of next year, we are going to define the agenda for the European leaders for the upcoming 5 years. So this is quite an important document that will guide the future of the European Union in the next 5 years. So basically, we have quite important moment. In the first 3 months, we'll have to deal with the files that are on the table on the agenda of the European Union. We have to finalize some of those, hopefully most or all of them still remaining, while in the second part concentrating in launching initiatives and ideas. So we hope to host around 17 council meetings, informal council meetings in Romania. The average is about 12. We hope to do more, also because the time framework enables us to do as such. So we expect in Romania about 30,000 guests for the presidency alone. A couple of thousands journalists to attend the events. The major events already existing at European level most probably will be hosted by us next year, because, like I said, it's about responsibility, and we understand that the moment of the presidency implies us to deal with things in the most efficient way. And we understand also that after Brexit, Romania is going to become the sixth biggest country in terms of weights in European decision making. So this means that we have a bigger responsibility towards European citizens across Europe. So we need to participate more actively, come up with our contribution, because Romania has one, if not the biggest support for the European Union. Almost 80% of the population support the European project. So I think this is a quite important message that Romania can deliver at European level. Try to explain how come this is possible and what can be done, of course, to even improve such important numbers and figures. So we'll try to do as such, while listening in the same time, being impartial, acting as a mediator. Those elements are quite important for us as well. So sticking up to the general rules about presidencies. So we are part of a trio, you know quite well, with Finland and Croatia. We already started working with them almost 6 months ago. We initiated the discussion, we came up with our contribution for the trio program. We work well with the Bulgarians, we worked well with the Estonians, and we work directly with Austria, being involved in different files already, like the MFF. So starting July, Romania is going to act like a shadow presidency, and we have prepared for that, and we are prepared for this moment. We want to, really learn from the others, while at the same time being, capable of doing the task of a presidency. So Romania is going to have the second biggest ever representation in Brussels. So about 300 people are going to be there, actively working on the files, because a lot of things are happening in Brussels, while at the same time having strong support from the capital. So more than 1,500 experts are going to be involved in this process. We started the training already several months ago, so people know what they have to do. We still train them. We still have 7 months to go, but we started the program at the beginning of this year already. So we want to be as prepared as possible for this moment. So this is basically the general idea and the general view on the presidency. What I can also tell you, and I think this is something quite interesting, about involving citizens. For instance, we have a logo. You can see it in your in the file that you received, and we try to do things differently. I spoke about involving people, and actually it's not only a rhetoric or only a message or only a slogan, it's a reality. So for the logo, we did a competition for young people. So we had about 300 participants. We had a jury, and after that we had an open system of voting. 10,000 people voted, which was a great success if we compare to other similar competition that the Commission was doing. And at the end, we have a 15-year-old young man winning the competition. He attended. He's a bright high school student, and with a very nice personal story. Of course, I'm not going to say that on the cameras, but I can tell you more. But the idea is that really his family did a lot for him to succeed, and they do a lot to of course to succeed in school. He has a brother, going to a European university because he studied also well. But this is a story of a young Romanian, but which can be the story of any young Europeans. At European level, we often speak about giving the floor to young people. Here, we prefer not simply speaking about that, but actually giving the floor. So he designed a logo, of course, that combines different elements of mythology presented at European level, also in Romania, but in different European countries. He wanted to show that the European Union can be strong as a wolf in this case, while at the same time speaking about diversity and biodiversity Next year probably we'll have a lot of actions at European level on biodiversity, not only by us but also by the Commission. They were thinking about doing a special year on that. It has not been decided yet, but again it was important for him to show this because Romania, and you will find out more from my colleagues from the Ministry for Tourism, is well known for having protected a lot, of course, its environment. We have the biggest square meters of virgin forest. We have huge numbers of protected animals, wolves, bears. We have the Danube, Delta of Danube, which is quite a special place in Europe where we have a lot of birds that do not exist elsewhere in Europe. So this also is an important aspect that has to be underlined because our local communities especially are well known for protecting the environment, and this is an issue that has to be put there, and this is what the young people said we should do, and we are going to do that. So just how we design the logo, it's an expression of how we perceive our presidency. So being very transparent, involving people, because the presidency, again, here in Romania, I say that quite often, it's not the presidency of a minister or a government, it's the presidency of every Romanian citizen, and of course to all Europeans, and it's important for them to feel part of it and to understand what is happening and what will be our role. So that was my introduction, long introduction. I'm here to answer to any questions that you may have, and at some point we'll pass to the informal discussion. You are going to tell them.
As one of the newer European, Eoghan Corry from Ireland, good morning.
Yeah.
As one of the newer European countries, I'd be interested in what Romania's position is on expansion, which is slowing down, and particularly the large, more controversial economies to your east, the expansion to Ukraine and Turkey. Do you see a situation where expansion to Ukraine and Turkey should be put back on track?
So enlargement, represents a key discussion for the European Union. Romania is supportive of the issue of enlargement, while in the same time, not reducing our conditions. It's clear that if you want to get in this common community, you have to respect the rules and the conditions, while at the same time, helping those countries to pursue the reforms that are necessary. Some countries are doing the efforts. We saw that in the case of some Western Balkan countries. Other countries are again still far from doing what is necessary to, of course, to comply with the requirements and the conditions. So, like for instance, those that you have mentioned, now they are not yet there. When we are not at that discussion when we can actually speak about them respecting all the conditions. But just to refer to another example, the Republic of Moldova. In the case of the Republic of Moldova, we do believe that the European Union should be involved or more involved on the ground. Because indeed, what we can very well see is that contrary to the Eastern European member states that integrated the European Union a couple of years ago, their situation is different. They face fake news, they face information that sometimes is wrong about the European Union. So there is a clearer division, and of course between those that want to integrate and those that do not want to integrate. And this is why it's important to give as much information as possible about the European project and about the association agreements and all of these elements to the people directly, for them to understand the benefits, but also the obligations when getting in this process of integrating the European Union. But you mentioned also something interesting: a new member state. Romania would like to, to move ahead with this idea and say that after 11 years in the European Union, we are not a new member state anymore, and we want to act as a full member. So therefore, as a full member in Eastern Europe, understanding quite well our region, I think our inputs can be useful in making a common decision on enlargement.
I'm Stephen Collins from the Irish Times. Can I ask you about Brexit, which will be a big issue during the Romanian presidency? Is Romania happy with the approach being taken by Barnier and the Commission, in the negotiations with the UK?
So we are supportive of the chief negotiator, Mr. Barnier, in this process. We are strong believers in the unity of the 27 in these negotiations in order to achieve the best results for all sides, and here the European side and the British side as well. We also believe that it's better to have an agreement than not have an agreement, but nevertheless we need a good agreement and an agreement of quality that ensures, of course, the protection, a clear protection of what is being decided. So for the time being, we have discussions and an agreement on different topics, like for instance, some rules regarding European citizens. So for the time being, European citizens living in UK or that will live in the United Kingdom till they finally get out of the European Union will benefit from the same rights afterwards. We hope to obtain similar rights also for the one going to United Kingdom after Brexit. Romania has an important community there. The recent numbers show that we have more than 410,000 people in United Kingdom, or actually it can be even more, but this is what the polls show. So we have one of the most important communities, and it's important for us to protect their future in the United Kingdom, as we will do for the British citizens living in Romania and the British investment that are here. It is clear that we hope that in the next couple of weeks we'll have more things to talk about in this negotiation. In the last couple of months, things have stalled a little bit, but we hope that the negotiation will relaunch and will stick to the schedule and finally find a compromise.
You were talking about European security, and
can you introduce yourself?
Sure. András Nemet, I'm from Hungary.
Yeah.
The migrant issue is part of the security issue, and the European Union is very much divided. So, what Romania will propose, or what is your standpoint, for example, on compulsory settlement of refugees in Europe? So, what is your standpoint? How can this wound of the EU can be healed?
There are several files on the table, and one file is related to border security and the reform of the Schengen area. And of course, here we believe a compromise can be reached quite soon. And of course, we participated actively on that. Regarding the Dublin reform, this is another issue, of course, that is still open for a discussion. We'll see what will happen in the June Council. I really believe that it's up to the leaders to find the best solution on that. Romania, of course, has some worries in the current proposal, not referring precisely to the compulsory, but referring mainly to the technicalities that actually do count. So, for instance, a reverse majority concept, which did not exist before, and other elements like that are quite important in making such a decision. So, usually Romania on this file came up with some compromise proposals. I'm not in the position of tell you if we are going to come up with others, but we believe that we can contribute with compromise solutions on this fact. But it will depend on the leaders if they accept or if they do not accept this fact. So Romania, you know quite well, last time when we had the discussion came up with very precise messages. One message was to be more active in the countries of departure in the transition country. When we said that, of course, people were not fully maybe on board on that, but today everyone has understood that we have to be present there. Of course, Romania has actively participated to the voluntary-based relocation system. We have an important number of refugees that were taken by us. Of course, there are some technicalities that block sometimes actually the relocation itself, but we are participating. We are among the first countries which contribute to the Frontex system. One of the first countries contributing to and helping the Greek with handling refugees. We are doing our part, and we hope that this active and positive contribution could also be seen in the compromise solution that hopefully could be reached now or at the next discussions.
Okay, the last question, and after that I will ask you to switch off the recorders.
Norbert Wallet, Germany. Could you tell us what led you to establish this fourth pillar to talk about common values in the EU? Is it as well the experience that during the refugee crisis and the handling of it, all of a sudden some gaps appeared within the EU in coming to common ground on what are really the values? For example, between, let's say, countries like Poland, Hungary on one side, and maybe some other members of the EU. Is that where you saw that it's important to re-establish a common understanding of common values in the EU?
Actually, we don't have such a precise starting point. We have a clear reality. Decision makers across Europe and citizens speak about common value, without having a clear definition on that. But actually, reaching a compromise is not an easy task. But having a dialogue could be a starting point. So our purpose is to at least have a dialogue, have a discussion. Actually between member states. Romania has proactively said that we need more discussions between member states, but actually through an active debates and finding the best solutions. To some extent, and this is a personal position that I have, is that the council meetings are very important, but sometimes they are we have during the council too rigid points of view. People come in, ministers come in, they read the message or they send a message to the others participants, but we don't have an interaction. So this doesn't enable us, of course, to find the best compromises and the best solution. Sometimes the technical staff is working more on solutions, and we believe that the political level can actually play a positive role, even in building common values or common understanding of values, or at least common understanding of each other. So this is quite an important aspect, because after listening to everyone, this is a particularity of Romania. We engage quite actively with Western states. We understand quite well the Eastern states. We are having very good relations with the South ones and developing more and more relation with the Northern states. And we found out actually that if you listen to each of the sides or each of the countries, actually you find common ground. But when you ask them whether they are discussing with each other, we notice that there aren't enough discussions. So maybe our presidency, as impartial as we are going to be, due to our role as presidency, through this fact that we are going to be impartial, maybe we can organize such a discussion. I think this is the right moment to do so.
Okay, thank you.